Hi guys, how are you doing? How is everything? How is the new year going? How is the new year faring on? So I'm good, I'm fine. And I think this year we have so much to exploit, so much to learn, so much to discover. And so before we do that, we need to just I think the first thing for us to just maintain during this year is our boundaries. And so before we dive so much into this year, I will just love us to know how to create our boundaries, know how to create limits to things because when you don't set your boundaries, you will tend to be disappointed a lot of times. So let us just set our boundaries before we dive so deep into this year and then communicate them to the respective people. Then I think we will now live a life that is kind of flawless. I know it can't be that flawless, but it will be a bit flawless because some people who are maybe close to you, they will know these are the things you do to me, these are the things you don't do to me, this is how you handle me, this is how you don't treat me, this is how you talk to me, this is how you don't talk to me. So I think it's just nice for us to just communicate our boundaries, and first we create them, we communicate them to the respective people, then we try to find ways to maintain them because we can create them, actually we can note them down, but then it can be difficult for us to maintain them. So we just want to learn about how do we create them, how what are the types of the maybe boundaries, because when you first learn the types of it, that's when you will learn now what are my boundaries according to this type. Now this is now my boundary according to this type, so we'll just dive into that, then to on how will we maintain. So I guess in a nutshell, any action that is done towards you, then like you feel just uncomfortable, anything that is done to you alafu na feel to I see, no, I think now that's a boundaries. But then boundaries are not that rigid. You see, when you maybe you go to an ocean, like for ocean, then you can draw something down on the sand, and then when everyone comes, they see it. So boundaries are not that clear. When you don't communicate them, they will never tend to be seen by anyone. If you don't say it to the respective people, maybe if the because boundaries are like nikama protective measures, they protect you from maybe certain groups, let's say family, maybe when you are at work, maybe when you're in church, like anywhere with friends, in any relationship. Boundaries are meant to be like a protective measure. So if they're not communicated to the right people, it really can't be known as a boundary because you can write them down, maybe in your notebook, maybe in anywhere that you can note them down. But then if you don't communicate them out, then when someone does it, you feel like you've crossed my boundary. You can't have that right to say it because you didn't say it. You didn't communicate it to me like this is my boundary. You didn't tell it to me that hapa nikifanya hivi ndio na feeling vibaya. So write them down, it's okay, go through them, and then communicate them to the respective people. We have types of boundaries. We have one, the physical boundary, which is actually an invasion to your personal space. You feel that those people when you are hugged in public, like the public display of affection, there's someone who maybe you might hug them in public or feel I offended, I'm uncomfortable. Someone might be kuna those that maybe they feel so comfortable with the kissing in public, but kuna wengine they really don't want the public display of any. So if you're that person maybe that you feel uncomfortable about it, talk to your respective partner about it. Tell them, by the Mimi, I would want you to just let's do it in private. Let's display everything that you want to do in private. But then if you feel comfortable actually about it, it's okay. Do it in public. Then we have the second one, which is actually the sexual boundary. It's actually the one that is maybe deals a lot more with intimacy. So maybe there are things that may be done to you maybe during intimacy, you feel apana hizi apana, this one they're okay. So yeah, do that. If you feel uncomfortable, say it out, because till when will you compromise? Because you might feel uncomfortable for the first time, then you say pan, and then the second time and the third time you're the one who's actually hurting yourself. So if you feel anything uncomfortable, speak it out. You have the right to speak it out. The internal peace comes from you. So if you don't speak out something that makes you feel uncomfortable, how will we know that you feel offended while you do maybe the things that we do to you? The third one, we have the intellectual boundaries, which actually concerns your thoughts and your belief. There may be things that maybe you say in public, but then people really dismiss your opinions and your suggestions. So if you're that person who feels like when I say my point, it needs to be taken into consideration, why will you just dismiss my points like that? Like nimefikiria kusema hii point. So speak it out. Anything, just so actually the third one, we have the emotional boundary. This is actually the one that is concerning actually the personal feeling. You might feel uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable with sharing maybe the things that you go through with people, maybe with your partner, with your friends, and with your family. But then there are things that you feel like, I can just share them over time. I don't need to share them like immediately I'm faced with this, I don't really have to share it immediately with you. So communicate, tell them. But then if you face some challenges or some things that I face in life, I always want to, maybe you want to just soak into it, then maybe you will talk about it later. And then there are some people when it has happened, I have to share it with everyone. So speak out which kind of person you are. And then we have the last one, which is actually the financial boundary. You hear about finances, what kicks in your mind is money. Yeah, money, pesa. So you might have some boundaries, maybe actually concerning money. There are some people that maybe you can be lending them money, but then they're using it maybe in their living their lavish life. Maybe you lend someone money, but then the person is using the money to actually maybe purchase things that maybe you're trying to purchase because maybe you're trying to save. So you might feel so like, feel like, mbona mi natrai kusave alafu ameniomba do namkopesha alafu anabaisha vitu zenye mi najinyimanga ndio nisevishe hizi do. So you see, so now that's actually the financial boundary. So yeah, now
Why are boundaries important to you?
okay, so boundaries tend to seem like, okay, they are actually a protective measure. Ni kama it's a protective measure for me, it's a protective measure for you. So why do you set them? Because if you don't communicate them, one, maybe you'll have a feeling of disappointment when things are done to you that makes you feel uncomfortable. So why do you set them? You set them to avoid disappointment, you set them to avoid frustrations, or you set them to avoid that sense of resentment. I guess that's the reason why you set boundaries, actually.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How will you communicate to them that these are your boundaries?
I think it's actually so easy because maybe when I'm close to someone, I'll tell you, but then Mimi, I don't like being done this thing. This is what makes me feel uncomfortable. And maybe you can actually tell because maybe if you're a friend to someone, maybe I'm that your BFF, I know you that well. I will know. If I do this to Fauzia, if I do this to her, she tends to feel so uncomfortable. So if maybe she can't tell what my boundaries are, I need to communicate them to her. I need to tell her, for me, I don't like when this is done to me. Maybe if maybe it's your family members, you tell your mom, by the way, mom, I don't like when I'm being done this. It might actually seem like you're being selfish, but it's okay to be selfish at times. Just love yourself. Tell people, tell your boyfriend, mimi sipendangi kuhagiwa in public, mimi sipendangi kufanyiwa in public. They need to understand because that is you. Because when it's done to you, you feel uncomfortable. So if you love me, why then will you want to make me feel uncomfortable? So tell it to anyone. If you feel like maybe your cousin is the one maybe that needs to know your boundaries, tell it to her, tell it to him, tell him, mimi sipendi kufanyiwa hii, mimi sipendi kufanyiwa ile, mimi sipendi kufanyiwa hii. So just it's easy to say it out actually. Ama you can actually, maybe if it's your friend, you feel like telling them will maybe be like kama unajionyesha, write them down in a paper.
Okay, so if I may ask, how do you maintain your boundaries?
Actually, okay, so I have a point here that might explain how you maintain your boundaries. Just try being consistent. Try being consistent with the boundaries because it says when you keep things steady and consistent, it will help you in reinforcing the things that maybe you've set. Just be consistent. Don't let your emotions, ama your empathy, just crowd, ama overlap your boundaries. These are my boundaries. These are the ones that are set. I don't need to, like, maybe ni kama kuhurumia, like set sasa juu nakupenda sana, I'll pity you alafu nikwambie maybe you do things alafu nakuhurumia because maybe we are so close together. So I'm like, ni sawa tu, let it slide, you've done it, let it slide, umeifanya, let it slide, because keeping them slide, it will actually bring a new wall for more things to be done to you that will make you feel like utafeel tu ni kama like utafeel to something so awful, something so bad about yourself. So and this year we actually so much into self-care, and self-care is soul care. So we actually so much into how do I maintain a healthy relationship with me, how do I love myself, because if you don't do these things for yourself, who will actually do them for you? If you don't set your boundaries on your own, and then if you don't try to maintain them on your own, this is what I don't want to be done this thing. Make it known to people, make them know that you can't do this. Ukifanya mara moja, I'll actually tell you, by the way, I didn't feel poa kabisa kabisa. Usiseme ati sasa because you did it ni sawa tu, we just laid it out. Hapana, you've done it, I felt so offended, don't repeat it again. Because it's like maybe someone tries to waste your time ama your mind, but then one of the things you can't really cross is actually my time and my mind. I can't I'm that person who feels so offended when I give you my time and I give you my mind, then you just use it anyhow. Like I can't spare my time and give it to you. I love you just use it like anyhow. I can't be sitting down thinking so hard, thinking beyond what my common sense can provide. I love you make me just feel anyhow. So if you dare mess with those two, I really can't negotiate. I can't really negotiate with that one. So you just just set your boundaries, set healthy boundaries actually, set them, communicate them to people, and then just lay them out, let them know you don't do this to me, you don't do that to me. And actually they will help you a lot in actually relationships, even at your workplace, at your school place, like anywhere. They will really help you in actually just mingling with people and just building healthy relationships that won't come baadaye alafu they say ati tumekosana because of something small, tumekosana because of something small. So just setting them and then talking them to people, it's actually something that we will benefit from. So we want to really dive into living a purposeful life, living life that where we don't kosana with people anyhow because someone did that, because someone alifanya hii and then you felt so bad. So why don't we try and avoid these two small things and just set boundaries?